Okay, you can ask questions while I'm doing this because I'm going to do this so that everybody can do it with simple tools from home. They don't need anything special. Um, it's a way to save yourself some money if you so choose, and if you like building your own tools. So we're going to make some tools tonight, um, some carbide tools. I know a lot of you don't use carbide. I find it has a purpose, and I'm cheap, frugal, whatever you want to call it. I like to make my own. So here's one of the tools we're going to make. This is one that I finished already. It's engraved with my initial. I'll show you how to do that. Here's a big one that we'll engrave later. So I just took some painter's tape, wrapped the bar, cut out a letter T, and made sure the tape was stuck down good on the edges. We'll do that after a while. I'll also show you how to glue this tool. This tool has been glued. So normally it would be silver like this one. This one's really polished. I went nuts and polished this one a long ways. You don't have to do that. This one's been glued. This one's just been lightly polished. And this one has a round cutter in it. The process is the same for the round cutter as it is to do a square cutter. It's just you round the front of the bar instead of squaring it, flattening it back. That don't show up very good. That's better. This one's more
Okay.
rounded. This one you can see is more square. Matches the cutter a little bit. You can buy this. So I'll pan you down. Can you see that good? Is that clear enough? If you want the camera a little
Yes.
closer.
There you go. That's perfect.
So this is bar that you can buy from. I buy 3/8 bar stock, cold rolled steel or hot rolled steel. It doesn't matter. You just don't want this kind of steel when you buy your steel. See the sheen on this? This is case hardened, and it's really hard to drill. You'll burn up drill bits, and the little hole that you got to drill for your easy wood bolt, screw, whatever you want to call it. I guarantee you'll be breaking drill bits because this won't drill very good. So stay away from anything that has that aluminum or stainless steel look to it. It's case hardened and it doesn't work well for drilling or cutting for that matter. Whoops. Okay. So you just start out with a piece of bar stock. Determine what length that you want to make your tool. I think I made this one. This one's about 9.5 inches total length, including the end that goes in the handle. Okay. If you don't have quick change handles, I have quick change handles, so you can just make this to fit in your handle. Okay. If you don't have a quick change handle, you can just make a handle. And you drill a round hole in it, put some epoxy in it, and drive it in. Just like making any other tool handle. So we're going to start out. I'm going to measure this one 9.5 inches. We even got it the right length right off the bat. This is a machinist square, adjustable square. For people that don't know, this slides back and forth. I use a machinist square when I'm metalworking because they're a little more true than a carpenter square. Let's see what I'm doing. I'm just making a straight line across here, here, and on the back side. So you can either use a reciprocating saw like this to cut this, or you can use a plain old hacksaw to cut this. right here, or you can get a 4-inch diamond wheel that cuts steel, different types of metal. It'll fit on a 4-inch grinder, which I have here, that you can use. This is a battery operated one, so you're not dealing with cords. If you're going to use a regular cutoff wheel like this one, make sure your floor is clean because you'll throw sparks with it. This one throws a little bit of sparks, but not nearly as much as this one. The carborundum wheel. This is called a carborundum cutoff wheel. And this one's diamond coated. You can see the diamond edges. It works pretty good. But I'm going to do it so if you don't have those tools, I'm just going to cut it with a simple hacksaw. You got to remember, a hacksaw cuts on the push stroke. And I mark both corners. Hopefully cut it square. This end doesn't really matter. And neither does this end because you're going to taper this end anyways. But I like to make sure they're kind of square. That's why I drew the lines here. I can see my line on either side to see if I'm running straight. Blade needs to be tightened a little. I'm not going to cut this one all the way off. I kind of did a Rachel Ray when I was getting ready to do this demo. But you get the general idea. I'm just going to cut this off this 3-foot piece of bar. So I have some that are already cut. So I cut this one already. And I put some blue dyeing compound on it. Which you don't have to do, but it makes it a lot easier to see it. You can buy this off of Amazon. Or if you got a good machine tool store in your town, big city, they usually have it on stock for people who are doing machine work. You paint
What's
it
the
on,
name
you let
brand
it
on
dry,
that?
and it gives the blue finish.
Scott, what's the name brand on that?
Dykeman with a Y. DYKEM. Blue steel layout fluid. And this one came off of Amazon. And it goes a long way. You don't need very much of it. So you just paint it on. Make sure you have gloves on when you paint it on. And it's not anywhere that you don't want to turn blue because once it's on, it's on. It doesn't come off. And it doesn't come off your fingers. And I don't even know if acetone takes it off. I've never tried it, but I usually file it off anyways.
Scott, I missed what kind of steel that was. What was the steel?
It's just cold roll 3/8 by 3 inch 3/8 by 3 inch bar stock.
Okay.
And
Okay.
you can get the 3/8 at Home Depot or Lowe's. If you need 1/2 inch bar stock, the only place I've been able to find it so far is Tractor Supply. Fleet Farm used to carry it. Menards used to carry it, but I haven't seen it in there for a while. And I don't know why that is. So,
Well, I love Tractor Supply, so that's good. Thank you.
so you're going to need a carbide cutter of your choice. It doesn't matter what brand you use. This is the little one that I'm going to use tonight.
Okay.
And I painted that bar. I'm going to set this upside down. I'm going to leave myself about 1/8 of an inch off the front so that I have room to work that front down to where I want it later. I'm going to put that on there. I'm going to zoom in close here. Try to. It isn't too blurry. It looks blurry on my screen. I don't know how it looks in yours.
No, it's fine.
So now the rest of this I do by eye. I don't do any measurements now. I like to take the width of my saw blade here, Stay away from the edge of this cutter, the width of the saw blade, and I'll explain that in a minute. Take a pair of scribes. They're just metal scribes. And I just scribe a mark where I want it. And I take my square again. Put this on here. I'm going to try to do this without hitting the camera. And I'm just going to scribe across that with the scribe against the square to draw square a straight line. Okay. Now that's the back side of your saw blade. This side of the saw blade. That side. Hang on a second. I want to do something here. Better for me. Okay. Well, so I scribe my line. Put that on there. Like so. Now I'm going to take my saw blade and I'm just going to score this. And I'm going to stay, so I keep my line just visible on the other side of my saw blade. Straight as you can. You're going to clean this up a little later.
Okay.
Go here.
Hey, Scott. Hey, Scott, can you move your camera out? We got a blurry issue for someone.
How's that?
Well, how's that, Rob?
Light.
Is that any better for you?
How's that? Is that better? I turned the light off overhead.
No, it's blurry. It's worse than what it was.
It was fine before.
Well, that's what I thought too, you know.
How's that? I'll shade
that's good right there.
Okay. I'm shading, so I'm getting reflection off this bar.
Yes.
So hang on a second. I think I can fix that.
You know, sometimes we have to understand, you know, the limitations of cameras when we're doing the demos. We don't have $1,000 setups, you know, when we're doing these demos, you know. So
does that help a little? If I put that blue tape
Sure.
on it, the reflection?
yeah, that helps, Scott.
Okay. So you're getting reflection off the bar and off the steel, and I got a light
Then
rail
off the-
on top of us. So
And
they
it's
can't-
off the light, right?
So I can.
It was
shade
better.
over there
It was
to go.
better having the camera zoom back in the way you had it. Sorry, I was just trying to make it a little
How's
bit
that?
better for folks.
So I just scored that with a hacksaw, and I just made it. I don't know. It's a mill or two deep. Not real deep. All it is a stop mark. So when you're filing this off, you don't file it back too far because this cutter has to sit against an edge back here. It has to sit against a little tapered edge, which you're going to create with the file. So now that I got my saw mark made, I come back with my cutter and I set my cutter so it's face up instead of face down. I started out with it face down. Now I'm going to turn it over so it's the correct way. Like so. I'm going to set it against this edge of my saw mark, the one closest to the cutter. I'm going to take my center punch, and this one's spring loaded. And I just center punched a hole.
No, Matt, that's what he's doing now.
I just center punched a hole. That's what this punch does. Hang on, I can move my fingers. I don't know if you can hear it. Zoom might.
Nope, you can hear it.
Okay, so that
You can hear
made this little indentation in here, which I'll shadow so you can see it. There's a little indentation in here.
Yep,
Now
you
I'm
can
going to
see
take
it.
a bigger punch, if I can find it. Got it laying here somewhere. Just had it. Where did it go? Oh, here it is. Now I'm going to take a bigger punch and make a little bigger dimple in there. Take it over here, set it on the back of my vise. There we are. I'm going to take that on the back of my vise. I'll take a regular hammer. I'm going to set it in that little prick mark that I made with the first punch. And I'm going to good wrap. You can see that made a big dimple, okay? Now we're going to take this over to the drill press, and I'm going to drill that hole now. And you're going to have to hold on for some Dramamine because I'm going to have to try to get you over there. Let me know if you can see that, Dan.
Yep, we can see the bottom of your sign vise.
Yep. I got to get this tape off of here. Because if I leave that on there, it won't be centered. I may have this pre-centered now. Put a little piece of bar underneath there, a little piece of scrap 3/8 bar, just to lift it up. You're gonna have to tell me if you can see this because I can't see my monitor from here.
You'll need to tilt it up a little bit, Scott.
How's that?
There we go.
So now I'm going to take this. Put my bars up too far. Now I'm going to center this place in that hole. You can see right now it's not centered. The spice is bolted to my tabletop. A little manipulation. Should be able to get it centered. Close. Okay. I'm going to lock my drill press down so that it can't lift up. And it's going to hold it till I get my bolts tight. I don't know, can you see those bolts staying and I'm tightening up? If not, I can show them.
Yeah, we can see him.
Okay, so there we got it tightened up. I'm going to loosen my spindle lock. Like that. I'm going to need some cutting oil. And I got to get a brush. Brush it in my pans. Here's my cutting fluid. You can buy this in a hardware store too, or you can use regular 3-in-1 oil will work. Whatever you want. I'm going to slather this up good. This is a number 43 drill bit, which is a wire size drill bit. Doesn't come in a standard set. You got to buy the drill bit separate. Got my drill press at the slowest speed. Well lubricated. Drill the hole. And it's all the way through. So, pick the other bar. That's perfect. So that's it. One of the things I like to do is my drill press table has holes in it, so the oil likes to leak down to keep from making a mess. I just bought a cheap pan from Goodwill, and that's my catch pan for my oil and my metal shavings to keep them out of my dust collector.
Great idea.
We're done at the drill press for the moment. Move you back over here. Try not to kill myself on the cord. Now we got our hole drilled, which is the most important part. Okay, so now I'm going to take a square or triangular file, and I'm going to file in that groove. I'm going to hold my file upright. That one's kind of dull. Better. There, I just made that just a little deeper. Now I'm going to take a double cut file.
Scott, on your hole, did you drill that all the way through the bar?
Yes, the hole has to go all the way through the bar.
Okay.
Okay. Now I'm going to take a double cut file. And it's just a regular file, but it's got 2 rows of teeth in a crosshatch pattern. So you got 1 row going this way and 1 row going that way. I'm going to move the camera back just a little bit so I don't hit it. And I'm going to file this. It's important that you had this a nice straight line, because now this is where you're going to follow that edge. And that one's really sharp. To clean the file once in a while, I just bang it on my workbench to knock the grit out of it. I'm going to come back with my triangular file, get in this groove a little. I got a little bit off. And you don't have to go crazy here, because this cutter is only about 4 mils, 5 mils thick, 6 mils at the most. That's all you got to file this down. You don't have to go crazy. Keeping that saw cut just a little bit. A little easier to do with the saw than it is with the file sometimes. Oops, sorry, bumped the camera. I need an overhead, is what I need. Finish this up quick. Drop the cutter up on the floor. So you just file that down just so that there's enough to catch it. Like this one. I don't want to bore you just watching me file. It's like watching somebody sand. So now that we'll just say that I got it filed all the way down to that point. We're going to go on to the next step. Talk a little bit about tapers, taper cutters, bevel cutters, whatever you want to call them, reamers. So this has a tapered screw head in it. I'm persistent at losing that today. Good thing I got another one.
Yeah.
I didn't have time to clean my floor. Somebody asked too quick.
Yeah, my bad.
It's all right. I had the stuff out. I was getting ready for a couple weeks. So this has a tapered hole in it.
There we go.
So you got to create that taper before you thread it. So there's different kinds of these. These are industrial metal ones. These are the ones you find in the hardware store. They're going to work, but they don't work as well. And you're probably going to throw it away when you're done with it if you use this one on wood, even though they tell you it's for metal. It's really not. Go to MasterCar or somewhere and get a single fluted tapered reamer. I'm not exactly sure what they call these there, but they're for tapering a hole.
And you gotta taper that hole because of the shape of the screw that's going to be holding that carbide in, because
It's tapered.
it's a
And it goes all the way through, and a little bit of that taper actually sits in the bar itself. I can show you that. Maybe better if I show you the screw. The screw is so small. So you can see that there's a tapered head on there.
right.
There we go.
What is it, about a 60-degree?
Yeah, these are 60-degree holes, countersinks, I guess is what you'd call them. So now I'm going to take you back over to the drill press and we'll countersink this. And then I'll show you how to thread it. I'm going to come back over here to the drill press. You could do this all with a hand drill, but it's a lot harder. It's better if you got access to a drill press to drill these holes square. Straight, I guess is the correct word. This is a number 43 wire drill bit. I think I said that before. Well, they do come in sets, but they're wire gauge sizes. And they come just shy of 1/4 of an inch in the full set. And there's a lot of them in here, and they get pretty tiny when you get to the bottom. I'm going to put that drill bit away before I lose it. Put that in there. Put this bar underneath. Now I'm going to set this in here. The point of that hole sink, countersink, you got to get it in the hole. And if you haven't moved this vise, it'll be real easy. Try not to move that vise until after you do this step. And you're just going to put this in there. You don't have to go nuts. And that's all the deeper you have to go.
Very good.
Okay. So it's probably 1/16 of an inch deep or so. This is how deep I drilled that countersink. Because a lot of that, there's only just a little bit of that screw head actually goes in there. Now you're going to put take your cutting fluid again. mess. I'm just going to lay a piece of paper towel on my bench here so I don't get too much oil all over it. I'm going to put a drop of oil in there. This is the important part. You want to get this started straight. Little downward pressure, trying to hold it as straight as you can. Nice, easy turns.
Scott, have you ever tried starting one with a drill press?
If you start it with a drill, this size tap with a drill press, you're going to snap it, and then you got a problem. You can get them out sometimes, but most of the times you don't. You're going to cut that bar off and start over.
Hey Scott, you know what? If I were you, don't you feel like you would have more control if you had the piece in your left hand instead of having it in the vise like that?
No.
If you're holding the piece in your left hand, you would feel where it's coming to that point of breaking.
No, I can feel it better when I got my hands on this tap. And the reason I'm using both hands is I'm trying to keep it somewhat straight, give it a little support. You're going to make about a 3/4 turn. You're going to back it out that much. And when you feel the chip break off, you'll know it. I can't explain it to you, but you can feel it. It breaks the chip off that it's cutting. And you're going to screw it back in. Do another 3/4 turn until it gets tight. When you feel it get tight, stop. Back it up. Now I got about 3 threads in there so far, but we're going to thread this all the way through. I'm going to clean this off, get those out of there. I'm going to take my brush wherever it went to. Where'd it go? All right, fine. I got a whole bag of them. So it ain't no big deal. I'm gonna take my brush and I'm gonna stick a few fibers down in there and knock some of those chips down. I'm just gonna keep working this back and forth. Once you get the hole started and you get it in there ways, you don't have to worry about it going crooked. It's going to follow the hole now. You can see right there, I went a little too far without backing it out. Because this is such a small hole that you're tapping. They're a little harder to tap than a big hole. Back it out. Clean it off. Clean it out. You can even blow with your breath in it if you want. Don't use an air hose unless you got safety glasses on. Obviously, you can blow chips in your eyes. These little wire fragments in your eyes are not a good thing. There it got tight again. We'll back it up till it loosens up where it spins free. You know, I broke that chip off. Can't have too much farther to go.
Scott, what size is the tap?
I'll tell you that in a minute after I take it out. Yeah.
Okay.
You got to put my cheaters on to read that. I think it's a 4. I think it's a number 4 by the 4 by 40 tap, and that's for the mid-size tools that EasyWood has. And I'm not sure what the big one is.
4 miller, 4 mil 40 TPI.
Yep. And you'll have to find a good hardware store that's going to have that size tap, because that's kind of an unusual tap.
Right. Like MasterCard.
This is a Irwin brand tap. I like Irwin taps. They're reasonably good price, and they seem to have pretty decent quality. But you can see how brittle that is. You don't want to go crazy. This is a slow process, almost like sanding. You want to make sure you still have oil dripping out. You can see I got shavings coming out on my fingers.
Yeah, you definitely have to take your time when you're tapping something, don't you?
Yeah, especially using a small tap like this. If I was using a bigger tap, I'd be through this already.
Right. Yeah, I always found it harder to do little stuff compared to larger.
Because they break easier.
Right.
They're just brittle because there's not a lot of material there.
Yeah.
And it pays
Especially if
to
they're
clean them.
especially if they're Harbor Freight taps.
Yes.
Lowe's might have that tap if they sell the Irwin tools.
And you can see how nice that thread's in there once you get it threaded. And I'm just about all the way through because I can just start to feel the tap turning on my finger. And you'll know, see how easier it got right there? That tells you you're all the way through the hole with the full length of the tap, the full length of the full size cutter of the tap. And it should spin that easy. You should be able to spin it with your finger. There we go. That one's tapped. I'll get my just to show you that it screws in there. And sometimes getting it started the first time can be a little tricky. Creates a little burr on the top. Sometimes I do like I'm doing right here. I'll just screw the screw in just to get that little burr off the top. Now you can see it wants to twist the cutter a little bit. I can fine tune that with a file so that back edge will allow that cutter to sit straight on that piece of steel instead of cocking off to the side. If it cocks off to the side and you can't get it just straight with your file, just offset get it pretty tight, not real tight, but just loose enough that you can move this cutter just ever so slightly, cock it the other way, and pull it back straight like that. Okay.
Be careful with those screws because you can ruin the screw head real easy.
All they have to be is snug. When you feel it bottom out, it's tight. That isn't going anywhere.
Oil filter snug.
Go ahead.
No, the snugness on the screws on those type of screws, it only has to be oil filter snug.
Yep.
Yeah. And if you get dirt in it and don't get the dirt out of it, you can ruin the head. I've got one that I I cannot get I can't turn the cutter or get the screw head out so I can take the cutter off.
So in order to get that screw out of there, I didn't see who was talking.
It's me.
Dale.
It's Dale.
Okay, Dale, to get that screw head off of there, I'll show you a trick. You're going to do this only with a drill press and a good vise. Don't try to hold that bar.
Because I have
You're going to take a drill bit. I'm going to get a different set.
because that hex or whatever
So you're going to take that drill bit.
completely rounded out now.
You're going to take a drill bit that's the exact same size as the top of that head, which they think on this one it was roughly 1/4 of an inch. Don't ask me how I know that.
Because you've done what I've done.
Yep. So you strip this out and you got to get that out of there, right?
Move
Yep.
the camera
Just-
down a little bit, Scott.
You strip this
There we
out.
go.
You got to get this out of here. You're going to get this one is this screw is 1/4 inch, basically. You're probably going to this cutter is not going to really like you when you get done doing this, but you can still use the cutter in most cases because you're only going to drill just a little bit. You're going to put this in the drill bit, in the drill press. Use that Allen key hole for your center hole. You're going to line that drill bit up, and if you want, you can use a smaller drill bit to get it even more straight. And you're going to drill just down enough to cut the top of that screw head off so that it'll go through the hole of the cutter. And it don't take much. You look at this cutter, all you got to do is take it down far enough to get through that hole. Okay, there's your top hole, your tapered hole. You're gonna cut that with a 1/4 inch drill bit, just enough to take that off. And if you have to, you can go down a size in a drill bit. After you cut the 1/4 inch one, if you're afraid you're going to hit your cutter, you can put a little smaller drill bit in and take a little more off till you can pop the cutter off. Then when you get the cutter off, you're going to take a pair of vice grips, needle nose pair of vice grips. If I can find mine. Or a regular pair. This pair would probably go small enough, but you're going to get yourself a small pair of vice grips. These are real little ones. You're going to grab a hold of that screw and you're going to turn it out real slow. If you can't get it out, you're going to take that bar, because you don't care about the bar. The bar isn't heat treated. Even on easy wood tools, they're not heat treated. You're going to heat it up with a torch till it just starts to turn color. And you're going to quench it real fast in something cold. Room temperature water works. Anything like that. You want to shock that screw to break the bond between the screw and the bar, and you'll get it out. If you happen to break that screw off, sometimes you can get lucky with a real small screw extractor, and you can get it out that way. But that's a 50-50 chance. So you just want to drill the head off. That's the easiest way to do it. And just,
Worst case scenario, cut the end of the bar off and
and then
re-drill
do
it,
what I just
re-tap
did.
it. You're
Yep.
good. You're good all over again.
Yep, that's right. And the easy wood bars are long enough you can get away with that.
Yeah.
Okay. So I got that cutter in there now. I'm gonna put this cutter away because I only have one of these. Now you got to cut this bar off, or you're gonna file this bar off. I don't know how good you can see the taper on that cutter, but here's your taper on your cutter. Here's where it touches the bar. And you're just going to taper this off just so you leave just a skosh of the edge of that hole down here. You want to stay just so you leave this hole showing. You're just going to take your magic marker and draw a line from here to here. And you can take your hacksaw and cut just shy of that line. Like this one's got a lot, I wouldn't file this whole thing. You just take my cutter off. And all this is a relief for the cutter. Yeah, I got that on there really tight already. I didn't need it that tight. There we go. Now you got that drawn on there. And it even left a mark on my glued surface where it was on top. And you can glue the whole bar and scratch it in if you want to. I didn't have time to do that today, otherwise I'd have done it. You can just take your hacksaw now.
You can also use an angle grinder and with a small grinding disc and get that off, right?
Yep.
Sure.
You could use this cutoff wheel. You could take if you have an air grinder like this, you can put a cutoff wheel in it. You could even take your Dremel tool with a cutter, with a diamond wheel cutter that they make now, and cut that off with that. I was just trying to show you that you could do this without having specific tools, you know.
Right.
Right. Well, even a standard shop 6-inch grinder will work.
Right. Yep. This grinder would work just fine with either this wheel on it or this wheel on it. It doesn't really matter. And I just cut that off now to make it look like this one, the finished one. You can see I just left just a little bit of that hole showing. It doesn't have to be pretty. I rounded the corners a little bit. And that's how you do that. Now, if I'm going to do the other end, so in order to get this, obviously you can't fit a square peg in a round hole. You have to knock the corners off with something. And this is where I'm going to use a grinder just because it's faster to show you how to knock the corners off, but you can do it with a file. I'm going to set this in my vise and hold it like in a diamond pattern so my edge is up. And I like about 2.5 inches in my tool, roughly. 2.5 inches is what I made that one. I'm going to change the disc on my grinder just to show you how the diamond wheel works. Safety glasses. I'm just going to take this grinding wheel now, a bottle of oil, and I'm just going to that quick with a grinder. Then I'll come back with a file, a single cut file, and I'll just clean this up. Just to make it so it slides in and out of the tool a little better. Square this corner. This file has cutting edge on the edge too, so you can square this corner off. Just like that. Okay? Any questions? You know I'm going through this kind of quick, but wow, that got warm. So that's how I would do it with this. You can do that with a file all the way down. It just takes a little longer, you know. And like Billy said, you could do it with this air grinder and a grinding wheel, or anything you want to grind that corner off. Same thing here. I would probably use my grinder that I just used to cut this down a little bit, and then just touch it up with a file. Same thing here. I just cut this off with the grinding wheel, and then clean it up with a file. So that's
Very
how
cool.
we do that. Well, we got this one nice and warm and hot. I'm going to show you how to clean this up. Now you want to clean this bar. You want to get the coating off this bar so you can etch it. You're going to take a regular file like this, and you're just going to hold it flat. You got to get this in the. This vise needs new teeth ground in it. And I'm just going to file this off. Here, I'll work towards the camera so you don't see my arm. You can see I got that pretty shiny already, just with a few strokes. These bars come coated with some kind of coating so that they don't rust when they're in the stores or in the metal fab places. So you can do that with a file. You can do it with this air grinder, with some Scotch-Brite pads, or you can take some. Put the box. This is emery paper. It's different than sandpaper. It's aluminum oxide, and it's got a cloth back. And how I use this, I just take this, wrap it around my file, pinch it between my fingers. Take a little 3-in-1 oil. Put it on here. And now I'm going to polish this. And that's how I polished that one, to get it a nice shiny finish. I just polished it with some oil. And you can go through
Hey,
this
Scott.
just like you go through anything else.
Hey, Scott, hey, Scott, back on the bar, is it advisable to grind off all four corners, the complete length of the bar?
No. I wouldn't do that. I would leave it square like this. I have rounded the bottom corners of this bar just so that I can use it at a 45-degree angle if I want to.
Okay.
Hammer my tool rest. But the
Okay.
rest of the, you only have to do that on the bottom side. You don't have to do it on the top. There's no need to waste your time doing it on the top. But now you can see how shiny that got just from that little bit of emery paper.
That was quick. That was quick.
And that was 240 emery paper. And you can go all the way up to 600. I mean, I can make this like this other tool wherever I put it. It was really shiny. The shiny one I had. I don't know where I set it. Oh, right here. This one here that we're going to etch, you'll see it's really shiny. I went all the way to 600. Okay. So now that we got that shined up, and you want to turn it blue, black like this one, you want to polish it probably to 320 if you're going to do it. 240 is okay, but 320 would be better. Take some solution. You're going to go to any good sporting goods store and you're going to get some stuff called Permablue made by Birchwood. This is a bluing solution they use for gun barrels, to repair gun barrels. I'm going to shake it up. You're going to make sure you save this little paper cap because this stuff does dry out. And I just tear a hole in the top like that. Now it's on there. It's just a clear solution. You're going to put this on. Oops, I forgot one step. Got to do one thing before we do that. Remember, I put oil on that, right? You gotta
Yes.
get the oil off before you do this next step. Clean it with some acetone, lacquer thinner, whatever you got around. Denatured alcohol doesn't really cut oil well. Kind of need to use lacquer thinner or denatured alcohol or acetone. I just used acetone. So now I dip this in the bluing solution. You never dip this back in the bluing solution once you've done it once. You use a new Q-tip.
It's fast acting.
And there's why you don't dip it back in there. You contaminate your fluid. And now I'm going to take another one, leave it sit on there for a few seconds, minute or two, whatever you want, doesn't really matter. Regular household water. I have a bottle of distilled water that I poured out of a gallon jug. And take my Q-tip again. And I'm going to wipe this down like this. With the cold water. That you can use over and over and over again. I'm going to take my clean piece of paper towel and I'm going to wipe it dry. Now you can see it's not as dark, right?
Yes.
So I can take another clean Q-tip. And you can keep doing this until you get this the color you want it to be.
Scott, what was that other bluing you were showing us earlier?
That's for it's just like a paint.
It's a layout.
It's for
It's a layout die.
It's a layout die, yep.
Okay.
The Daikin.
So now I'm going to wipe this down again with water. Now you can see that it's gotten a little darker. And you just keep going until you get it to the darkness you want.
And we're blowing it to help prevent rust from starting on it.
So bluing is actually an oxidized layer that never rusts again. It'll kind of waterproof it, and it'll keep it from rusting on its own. Like if you're like in Louisiana, where it's humid and stuff rusts just sitting in the humid air, this will keep it from rusting. Okay. This has probably 6 or 7 coats on it to get it this dark. And the darker you get it, the better it holds up to the environment, to the rust of the environment. Okay.
Okay.
You just got to make
And
sure
we
the bar is clean and it's oil free, contaminant free, whatever you want to say.
Then we have a question. We have a question asking if you warm the bar up, would it help accelerate the process?
No, it not when you use this material. This material tells
Okay.
you to put it on cold or room temperature, 70 degrees, 60, 70 degrees.
Okay.
There is another solution called hot gluing, which is an acid type material. And I wouldn't do that in my shop. That I would do outside because it gives off a toxic gas when you heat it up and put the bar in there.
Right.
There's
That wouldn't be good.
There's also a cold gluing solution that's meant for touch up small areas. It doesn't work real good for doing large areas like this. You're better with the stuff called permablue. They also make a browning solution too if you want to make it look brown instead of blue, black, whatever you want to call it. It's actually more black than blue. I don't know why they call it blue because it's really black. So now we'll show you how to etch something, and then we'll be just about done. Now I'm going to etch something. I got this off of YouTube. I didn't come up with this idea. I made my own etching machine. So this is a 12-volt wall charger that came off something old. It only has 12 watts of power, and it puts out 480 milliamps DC current. Okay, we're going to play with some water with DC current, not AC current. Okay, and this is safe. I've done this. This is a safe thing to do because you're actually not touching the water. You're going to find the positive and negative wire that comes out of this adapter. And if you look on the adapter, right down here, get the camera to focus, right down here in the bottom, it shows you which wire is positive and which one is negative by the plug. Typically, the outside of the plug is negative, and I haven't found too many chargers that are opposite of this, but they do. They exist. The outside of the plug is negative. The center conductor in the plug is positive. So I just take the plug and I cut it apart to figure out which wire went to which, the outside casing or the inside casing. And then I cut it off and I mark my wire accordingly. Red for positive. And we're going to plug this in. Hopefully it's long enough. I can do it in the vise so I don't have to hold it. You're going to plug it in. You're going to keep your cables away from one another so you don't burn up your machine. You're going to hook your positive to the bar. Hopefully I can get this on there. And hook the positive to the bar. Maybe. Yeah, let me get an extension cord. I'll plug it in off an extension cord. You're gonna hook your positive to the bar. And you're gonna grab your negative. And this is a salt water solution. A tablespoon of salt water to, I don't know, a few ounces of water. Distilled water. You can use tap water. I just use distilled water. You're gonna take your Q-tip. Wet the Q-tip, stir it around, make sure your salt is dissolved in the water. Hook your lead to the watery end. Now you're going to touch it to your stencil. Oops. I can get you a little closer because it's actually starting to work. Come on. There you go. So this will start to turn brown after a bit. You just hold it on this spot, the water on that spot. And you'll see it takes a little bit. You'll see a little bit of smoke come off. You want to make sure you do it in a ventilated area. It does give off a little gas. It's probably not super great for you. I usually wear a respirator, but I can't talk with a respirator on. Can you see it smoking a little bit?
Yeah, a little bit.
You can see that it's starting to turn black. This probably isn't the best bar to do this on because it's polished. It's a little better if you don't have a high polish on it, but you'll get the general idea. And you can see it bubble.
Yep.
You have to do it a few times. You can wipe it clean. You just got to keep working at it.
This will make an etching that you can catch your fingernails on, right?
Yep.
Then for your stencil, did you just use painter's tape and cut out
That's
your?
what I use with this painter's tape. Yep.
Yeah, just a saline solution, right?
Yep. It's just a saline solution. You can see that it's starting to turn it black. And it's really starting to bubble now in certain places. There it goes. You just want to make sure you got everything covered that you don't want stenciled or etched, because it'll etch anything that this touches, the solution touches, right? And sometimes you got to use more than one Q-tip. It takes a bit. This isn't a super fast process. You also can use a old style battery charger for a car, but you have to use an old one. You can't go buy a new one and use it because they have a dead man switch in them, which doesn't allow, if it doesn't sense current in the battery, it won't work. You have to use the old one that you might find at a garage sale somewhere. There's YouTube videos out there on how to make your own if you want to go through the work for making your own. If you got the electronic knowledge to use you can tear apart an old 12-volt battery charger like used for charging your tool batteries. And you can take the coil out of it, the transformer out of it, and create your own. But there's a little bit of wiring involved, and this is just easier to use one that's DC current instead of AC. So I think we got it etched. Pull some tape off to see if it's etched. Get it off. Clean that up with a little bit of regular water to make it hard to see. Can you see that in there?
Oh yeah,
So
especially,
I'll
yeah,
just take the,
especially when you kill the
I'll
light.
shade it with my hand so you can see it. Can you hear that? That's the etch.
Oh, you can see the definition of the etch.
So that's etched in there, right? So
Yeah.
So it's kind of hard to see. So what I do is I just take a little bit of gold paint that I got laying around, or whatever color you want. A little bit on a Q-tip.
You flip the camera around. There we go.
How's that? Just put a little bit on a Q-tip, dab it in there.
Raise it up just a little, Scott. Thank you,
just-
sir.
I'm just painting this with a Q-tip. And I'll just dab this off.
Hey, Scott, how did you cut this stencil?
I used a razor blade knife. Matter of fact,
Thank you.
this one right here. And I just cut it. You know, I just drew a letter T with my little fine marker on my, this is just blue painter's tape. I got a super fine Sharpie marker and I just drew a letter T. And I just cut it out. Now you could take your, like Matt's got a Cricut machine. You could make stencils with that. You could use, if you wanted a certain pattern, you could go buy a vinyl stencil and tape it down, or adhere it down with some kind of adhesive, self-release adhesive, just so that the water doesn't get underneath it. I mean, you can take this out of the vise. Let me unplug my charger. So that's all there is to that. So this is just a simple 12-volt, old-fashioned 12-volt charger that everybody throws away. Don't throw them away. They make good etching tools.
And just to reiterate, you put you clip the positive to the metal, and
Positive
you're
goes
dabbing.
to the metal. Negative goes to the Q-tip.
Thank you.
So I'll turn this around so that the glare isn't on it, and you can really see that's etched in there.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it looks great.
And I can catch my fingernail on it. You know, I can.
Oh, you can see it.
And when you do it on one of these that you've blackened, it really stands out.
Right.
But it's just a good way to mark your tools. If you want to mark your tools, you're going to level up, not to harp on level up, but if you're going to level up and you're worried about your tools not coming back to you, now you have a simple way to etch them.
Right. Hey, Scott, before you go, would you be able to show how to sharpen a carbide cutter?
Oh, yeah.
I think that would be a good addendum to, making the tool, and then also how to freshen up your cutters, show how easy it is.
We have a diamond stone. here. And I'm gonna clamp it in my vise just to hold it so I can show you guys. I'm gonna put the 1200 grit side up. This is a double-sided stone.
Camera so we can see it.
Yep, we'll get there. So now I
Thank
just
you.
got that clamped in my vise. I'm gonna put the stone top side down on the, like that. And I'm just gonna put a little dab of water on my stone. And I'm just gonna do a circular motion. And you can see the diamonds are cutting it because my little bit of liquid is getting black, right? And I'm just pushing down with my finger and doing circles. And now it's sharp again.
And that's all it takes.
That's all it takes. Half dozen strokes a minute. But make sure you use a little liquid because the carbide will plug up your diamonds. Even though your stone says you don't need to use liquid, use a little bit of liquid because it will plug up your diamonds. And then you got to take it in the house and put it in Dawn dishwashing soap, and it'll unplug your diamonds. It's that easy.